Okay, today we're going to start with chapter 3, and chapter 3 is basically where we're going to start to do real programming, because this is where we're going to start using variables. And if you remember, in chapter 2, we created more like a GUI interface with button and pictures and labels, but there was no real programming there. All the programming we did was changing the text value of a label. Or making a control visible or not visible. That's all what we did, all this programming we did. In order to do real programming, you have to work with data. You have to input data, you have to process the data, and then you have to output the information, the process that you process data. To do that, you have to work with variables, and variables are storage location where you can store data. All right, and you can store different kind of data. You can store textual data, like the name of a person. We call them strings. In time you're working with textual data, we call them string type. Other type, sometimes you can store numbers. You need to store numbers, and within numbers you can store whole numbers, like the number 1 and the number 2, or -1 and -2, but no fraction. You cannot store like 1.5. These are called integers. Whole numbers, we call them integer. And sometimes you want to store floating point numbers, numbers that have a fraction, like 1.5 or -2.5. These are floating point numbers, right? So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about data, how you store the data. We store them into variables. What type of data variable types you can have. We're gonna work on that. Okay. So what I want to start. This should be okay now. All right. So what we're gonna do in here, we're gonna do. I like to start always by doing example in Visual Studio. So we'll do some examples today, and on Monday we'll go over the presentation. But we're gonna do different example. The first example is we're gonna talk about talking about the string data type, which are textual data. Remember, we said that you can have textual data, we call them strings, and you can have numeric data, we call them integers or doubles, right? So the first example we're going to do is only strings, and we have this application where you have 4 inputs. These are text boxes and 1 output. All right. The idea in here, if I put in here day of the week, if I put Wednesday, and for months, if I put April, and today is what, 22nd, 2020. So I put this information. If I click on show date, I want to display in here the string Wednesday, April 2020. So I want to do that. Okay. So this one is an output. This is output. So it's going to be, remember, we said output are going to be labeled. We talk about different control type. So if you have an output, always output going to be labeled, and the prefix we use for the label is LBL. These are input. These are text boxes, and the prefix for text box will be TXT. So always you start the name of a control with a prefix, right? Which indicate the type of control. So these are text boxes. We will use TXT for the prefix, right? And then we follow the prefix with a meaningful name. All right. So in this case, this text box represents day of the week. So a meaningful name would be day of week. And so the name will be TXT day of week. Notice that I'm capitalizing every letter following the prefix, every word following the prefix, to make it easy to read. The D, the O, and the W are capitalized, so it's easy to read, right? So same thing for this one will be TXT months. This will be TXT day of months. This is txt year. This is a label for the output. We're gonna call it LBL full date. Right. So use meaningful name. This is the idea in here, and that is easy to read. Very important part of the rules in programming in Visual Basic is you cannot have spaces and names. So you cannot put space between day and off, and between off and week. That's why we capitalize every word to make it easy to read, right? So this, the other ones are, we have buttons in here. So in here, prefix is btn for button. Good name for that is show date. So you can read it directly from the text property of the control. This is maybe btn clear. And this is btn exit. So this is the user interface. You design it, you give meaningful control names, basically all the input, which are the text boxes, and all the output, which are the label that look like a text box, and all the buttons, you give them name. The other descriptive labels, like in here, you don't have to give them names. You can use a default name for these because you're not gonna program. Only what you're gonna program, you name them. Everybody clear about how we do that? All right, okay, let's go ahead and translate that into a program. So we're gonna use Visual Studio to do that, and I already started Visual Studio. If you wanna see how to download Visual Studio and how to set it up on your computer, please check previous video that I made regarding that. So I'm gonna go ahead and go directly to the Visual Studio. And here it is, we have basically, I started a project. We have a blank forms, and I can resize it. Right now, the title in here of the form of the window is say form 1. We want the title date string, so we change the name property for that. So the the text property is basically what you see, right? So if you change text property to date string, you're gonna see that's fine. Before I start entering text in this form, adding control to this form, I wanna make sure that the text will appear in 12-point font, not 8-point, because they're gonna be too small. So I wanna set the font property for the entire form. Right now, by clicking on the font property on the property window, and then click on the 3 ellipses. And this is gonna allow me to change the font property. Just it's taking a little bit more time today. Here it is. And I want to select 12-point. So I want to make it a little bit bigger instead of just 8-point, 12-point. Say okay. So this is going to make the form a little bit bigger, but it's not a big deal. So we have that. But let's go ahead and add the control. So if you look at the design, so basically you have you're going to have 4 labels. All right. There's these 4 labels, but there's also this one is a label. So we need 4 labels, and we have 4 text boxes. Right. So we have 5 labels and 4 text boxes. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the label control. Here it is. Double click it 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Right. This is going to be for the output, so I'm going to leave it in here. These are going to be for the describing thing. I'm going to draw a box that select all 4 of them and move them together. All right. Once you have them this way, you can go to the format option from the menu bar and select align. You can align them to the right or to the left. It doesn't matter. Let's align them to the right. And then you can do format, and you can define vertical spacing, and you can increase vertical spacing. Okay, it's kind of slow. I don't know what's going on today. It's not responding. All right. Okay, here it is. I want to say increase. Again, format, vertical spacing, increase. One more time, format, vertical spacing, increase. Right. So we have that. We can position them. Here it is. I can take each one and set the proper label. So this is going to say day of the week. This is gonna say months. This is day of the month. And this is year. Right, need to add the text boxes. Let's go ahead and scroll on the toolbox to letter T. Here it is, text box. I want to add 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can position them. I can align them. Notice you have a different guideline. You can align it with the bottom of the label or with the center of the label. I'm going to select this one, the lavender color. Align them with the proper label. All right, so we have that. Now these, you can draw a box that touches, that enclose them or touch all of these control, and you can position them, move them together. So we can reposition them. We need this label. I can position it in here. Now this label doesn't look like a text box. I want to make it look like a text box. To do that, you set the auto size property to false. So you can size it and set yourself. So we can size it. You may want to do the alignment. Right now it's aligned in the top left corner. We can do text align, change that to middle center. Okay, and this is going to align it in the middle, which is what we want. If you click outside, you're not going to see the border around it. We may want to put a border around it, so I want to select that. And I want to change the border style from none. Right now it have no border. I'll change it to maybe fixed 3D to make it like 3-dimensional. If I want, I can change the font, the back color of the label. This is a back color property. I can select maybe a different color, maybe white color, or maybe yellow color, whatever have you. Okay, and I can delete the label from it right now. So I'm going to select the text property, delete the text property, and it's going to give us this. We need to add a button, actually 3 buttons. So I scroll to the toolbox. Here it is. I want to add 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. And I can position them below the form. And I can maybe resize them because so I'm gonna, all right. Okay, I opened this thing by mistake. If it happens, sometimes it's more like double clicking. Select the procedure that you created. Don't select the class, just leave the public class alone, and then delete that. And then go back to the tab, the design tab. Right, I'm gonna go ahead, again, draw a box that touches these 3 buttons to select all of them, and I want to increase their size. All right, I want to make the spacing between them equal. I can do that by going to the format menu. From the format menu, I can select horizontal spacing, and I can say make equal. And it's going to space them out equally. All right, now I can select each button. The first one is going to say calculate show date. In this case, I have to resize it a little bit. This one is going to be clear. This is going to be exit. So this is, I think it's about right. I'm going to maybe move them a little bit. Okay, so, and that can resize the form. So this is the interface, okay? Now, we need to name these controls. We already put the names on the paper, if you remember. This is going to be named. So we'll scroll to the top and select the name property. There's going to be, from the design that we made, it's going to be TXT day of week. right? So the important thing is to use the prefix should be lowercase, and every word following the prefix should be capitalized. All right, so go to the next one. There's going to be TXT months. And this one is going to be TXT day. Day of week, day of month. And this is going to be TXT year. And this is a label. It's going to be LBL full date. And we can name the buttons. This is BTN show date. And this is BTN clear. And this is BTN exit. All right, so we have the user interface created, all right? So we need to program it, all right? Right now, if you try to run it, it is basically going to give you the user interface, but if you try to enter anything and click on show date, nothing's going to happen because you haven't programmed it. You just created the user interface right now, all right? So it's compiling right now. Just it takes time, the first time to compile. So after it finishes compiling, it's going to create the executable, and it's going to run. The application is going to run displaying the form for you to enter data on it. But again, the buttons are not going to do anything because you haven't programmed them yet. All right, programming each button is called programming an event handler. So we have in here 3 buttons. So we need 3 event handler. One to handle the click event on the show date button, another one to handle the click event on the clear button, another one for the exit button. So right now it's I think it's ready to run. So it should show up hopefully now. Okay, so okay, it's slow. Here it is. So it did run. It gives you this thing. You can tell that you are in run mode by looking on the toolbar. You would see that there is a stop button. That means it's running right now. Now, if you put it, information in here like Wednesday, April 22, 2020, right? If you put the information in the input boxes, if you click on show date, nothing happened because you haven't programmed this button yet. So we need to program the event handler to handle the click event on the show date. Similarly, if you click on clear, nothing happened because you haven't programmed this button. Similarly, if you click on exit, nothing happened before you haven't programmed that. So let's go ahead and program these. I'm going to close this one. I'm going to program them. Now, between these 3 buttons, so right now you are in design mode. There's no stop button, so you can tell that you're in design mode. The easiest button to program is the exit button, all right? The exit button always is the same way you program. So let's go ahead and program this one first. I'm gonna double click it. When you double click on that button, it's gonna create an event handler called the click event on the BTN exit button. So this one in here, simply we wanna close the form. To do that, you use the keyword me.close. Always to close an application, you're gonna say me.close. So the exit button is gonna always be programmed the same way, me.close. Me in this case, it's referencing the form. All right, close that mean close the form. That's what it does, right? That's what it is. So it's very simple, always the same way. Okay, so let's go ahead and do program other button. I can program them by going to the design tab. I can double click on the show date to create event handler for that, right? But you can do it another way. From the code window, without leaving the code window, I can click on this pull down list. And from there, select the BTN show date button. And then on the third pull down list, select the click event. And this is gonna create an event handler for the show date button. All right, so now we're gonna program it. All right, so the idea is how do we program this thing? All right, so let me go ahead and explain that. Now, in this chapter, we're going to talk about operators, all right? Everybody know about arithmetic operators, like you know that you can do addition, you can do subtraction, you can do multiplication, etc. But how about a string operator? What kind of operation you can do with string? With strings, you can do basically only one operation you can do with string, right? And this is called concatenation. So you have what we call concatenation function. The concatenation operator, and this one is, I think, the operator for that would be the %, I think. It's either % or plus. So the idea is this. Let's say that you have the string, let's say hello. And you have this string, maybe space. And you have use this string, maybe Joe. These are three strings. You're going to combine them together. You combine them by using the concatenation operator, which is, I think, the %. So if you put them together, you're going to get a single string that say hello, Joe. Right? So this is the idea. Okay. So in our case, we're gonna take three different things. We can have the day of the week, the month, the day of the month, and the year. All right. Before we do anything, let's go ahead and start with the program. All right. Let's go ahead and start the program. The rule is simple. All right. For each input and for each output, you declare a variable. All right. So in this case, we have 4 input, 4 text boxes, and 1 output, 1 label. So we need to declare 5 variables, 1 for each input, 1 for each output. Now, in this case, all of the input and all of the output are text. This is text, text, text. Even so this looks like a number, we're going to use it as text because we're going to concatenate it with a month's name. So all of them are text, and this is definitely text. So they are text. Textual data in programming terminology are known as strings. So we need to declare variables to store these 5 strings, 4 for input, 1 for output. Let's go ahead and do that. So in here, the first thing I want to declare, I want to give you more like a kind of template that you can use to write your program. The first step, I'm going to call it step 0. This is where you're going to declare your variable. The idea is variables are memory location where you store your data, right? Since you're going to be working with data, you have to allocate storage in memory to store the data you're going to need, right? You declare variables in Visual Basic by using the dim statement, right? Don't worry about why we call it the dim statement. You have to start with dim. You say dim. You follow that by the variable name, all right? And we're going to use some convention, right? So let me go ahead and go back to the projector and show you where it is. We learn about controls, right? We said you have a control type. And we talk about prefixes with control. So we said that if you have a text box, you use a prefix txt. We said that if you have a label, you will use a prefix lbl. We said that you have a button, use a prefix btn. We said if you have a picture box, use the prefix PIC, right? We talk about prefixes. This is convention used by all Visual Basic programming, so we should follow that. That's why when we did the form, we use a proper prefix in naming our control. So for text boxes, we use prefix txt. For label, we use prefix lbl. For button, we use prefix btn. So we follow the convention. All right. Same thing. Variables have prefix. So you have got here variable type. All right, and we said you can have textual data. Textual data are known as strings. Right. So the term you use for text in programming terminology, whether it's Visual Basic or C++ or any other programming language, the term you use in programming is string. String mean it's a string of characters, so it's textual information, textual data. Now, if you have whole numbers, use the type integer. Integer denote a variable that can store whole numbers like 1 and 2, but not 1.5, right? Now, if you're going to store fractional number, you use a floating point numbers, and you have two types of floating point number. You have a single precision floating point number, and you have a double precision floating point number. The difference is this: double precision floating point number give you 15-digit accuracy, and most of the time you have to use a double precision number. So I'm going to call it double in this case. Right. Now you can, if you like, use a different kind of floating point number called decimal, this is the author like to use it. So I'm gonna call this one, I'm not sure if he called it decimal. So so these are for floating point number. I like to use double, right? You're gonna use a prefix with each type. So if you have a string, I'm going to use a prefix str. If you use integer, I'm going to use a prefix int. If you have a double, I'm going to use a prefix dbl. If you have a decimal, I'm going to use a prefix dec. This is how you're going to name your variables. You're going to start them with a prefix, all right? All right, so this is the idea. Like we give a naming convention for controls, okay? You're going to use naming convention for prefixes. So let's go ahead for variables. So let's go ahead and go back to the programming class. So we're going to declare our first variable. For each input, you need to declare a variable. For each output, you need to declare a variable. All the input and output are string, so we're going to use the prefix str. So str, the first one is going to be for the, if I look back to the design screen, the first one is going to be the day of the week. So it's going to be, I can use the same name that I use for the control, except the prefix will be str and sftxt. So it's going to be day of week. Right, so instead of being txt day of week, it's going to be str day of week. This is going to be as string. Right, so we have that. So we declare that. Then we're going to declare another one for all the inputs. So another one is str. The next one is months. So I'm going to call it str months as string. Notice IntelliSense, it does remember what you type, so you don't have to type as much. So like I say in here, dem str day of month as string. Next one is dem str year as string. Next one is for the output, dem str full year as string. Right, and this is the first step. You declare all your variable, right? Notice they have a wavy green line underneath them. Don't worry about it. These are going to disappear when we use them. If you move the cursor over the wavy green line, it tells you what the error is. It tells you unused local variable. It tells you that you haven't used it yet. Of course, I haven't used it because I haven't finished writing the program. When I finish writing the program, all of them are going to be used, so the wavy green line will disappear, right? So this is fine, all right? The wavy green line usually are not alarming. The alarming one is the wavy blue line or wavy red line. These tell you that you have errors, so you have to fix these, right? The second step, okay, if you remember what I told you from beginning of the class of the semester, I told you when you write programs, we're going to do it in that order. We're going to do input first, then we're going to do processing, then we're going to do output. So again, this will get you step one, which is the input. You're going to get the input in that step, right? And I'll give you more syntax about how it is later on. But right now, the input is string. All right, I'm gonna give you the syntax right now. Now, the easiest input you can do if the input is string, right? So if you have a string variable, then you can directly get that from the control by using in here txt control dot text. Let's say txt control name dot text. So you get it directly because string are texts are strings, so there's no conversion. You don't need to convert from one data type to another. They are of the same type. Both the text property of a control and a string are of the same type, so no conversion is needed. You can assign it directly. The second one is if you have maybe an integer variable. If you have an integer variable, you cannot just directly assign it the control value, the text property. You have to convert the text to an integer by using CINT function. The CINT function is going to convert from text to an integer. So, and I use in here txt control name dot text. Next one is if you have a double variable. All right, if you have a double variable, you cannot assign it a string variable directly, string value directly. You have to convert that to double using cdbl function to convert to double, and we're going to use txt control name dot text. The last one, if you prefer to use decimal instead of double precision, then you can use DEC prefix, DEC variable equal. You use in here DEC convert to decimal, txt control name that text. Right. This is syntax. Okay. Again, what you see in green is not part of the program, it's documentation. So I'm just putting that to give you a template that you can use for all program you're gonna write. So in our case, the input is all text. So we're gonna use the first syntax. There's no conversion needed. I can use that directly, right? So let's go ahead and do that, right? So we can say in here, the string variable str, notice IntelliSense, as soon as I type str, is gonna list all the things that start with str. I select str day of the week. And this is gonna equal from the syntax is gonna be the control name dot text, which is txt day of the week. Notice IntelliSense how handy it is. Day of the week equal dot text. So we're gonna get this string here. Notice when you do that, you have used the str day of the week and the wavy green line disappear now from the declaration section because you have used this variable. Let's do the next one. Str months is gonna equal to txt months dot text. All right, next one, str day of the week. That day of month, sorry, equal txt day of month dot text. Right. And the last one, str year equal txt year dot text. Notice the use of IntelliSense. Always use IntelliSense. Okay, it is not only it's saving you typing because you just tab on this on the value you want when you see it. It also prevent typing errors, and typing error can create errors in your program, which which allow you to waste time trying to debug them and find how to correct your program. So if you use IntelliSense, you won't have that. Right. Next step is step 2 is processing, okay, or calculation. Usually processing calculation. So again, remember the 3-step: input, processing, output. So we're doing step 2 is processing. This one, the syntax, we use only variables. So you don't use controls in step 2. In step 2, you use only variables. So you can say in here variable equal expression. Right. The syntax is always variable equal expression, not the other way around. You cannot say expression equal variable. It has to be variable equal expression. Right. So in this case, what are we computing? We're computing basically the full month. The only one remaining with a wavy green line. The only variable remaining with a wavy green line. str full month. Okay, I should call it full month. My error in here. Let me correct the variable name. Full date. It should be full date. My mistake. str full date. So in here we're going to say str full date, and it's going to equal. This is where we have to use the concatenation. This is where we have to combine things together, right? Going back to the thing I did. So the idea, if you have in here, you want to say hello space Joe, you combine hello with the space with Joe, and you get hello Joe. So in our case, we're going to combine the information. We want to combine the day of the week followed by comma. The output we want to display is this way. So we're going to combine the day of the week, then follow that with a comma, space, combine that with a month, combine that with a space, and then combine that with the day of the month, combine that with comma and space, combine that with a year. So we have to do combination in here, concatenation. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're gonna do in here start with the day of the week, which is str day of the week. Right? We're gonna combine that, use concatenation. We're gonna combine that with comma and space. Then combine that with, so I'm going to do it one per line. So I'm going to go to the next line, combine that with str months. We'll combine that with comma space months. No, you're going to combine that with a space. Then combine that with str day of the month. And combine that after the day of the month, we want to put comma space. Then we're gonna, after that, we're gonna put the year. And this is the processing. This is what you do. When you do that, it's gonna display, there's gonna be Wednesday, comma, space, April, space, 20, comma, space, 2020. All right, so we're gonna do that. All right, so it's gonna calculate it. So now we have the output, but in a variable. It's not gonna display. So to display it, we need to do step 3, which is the output. We're going to display the output. And this one, the syntax is the opposite of input. The output is the opposite of input. So let me go view the syntax. and you're going to have different syntax. The easiest one is if you have a string, right? There's no conversion needed because a string is a text. So if it is string, we can use in here LBL control name dot text, and we can simply assign it to the string str variable. So if the output is a string, there's no conversion needed. You can just say str variable, like in our case, it's a string. If, on the other hand, we're talking with numbers, you have to convert them to text. So if you have in here LBL control name dot text, if it is an integer, let's call it a numeric variable. It doesn't matter if it is an integer or double or whatever have you. If it is numeric variable, you can use that, and then you can say dot to string. This will convert to a string. So it will convert it from number to a string and it will work. But it's not going to format it. So it's not going to put $ and comma separator or anything like that. Sometimes you may want to do formatting for the before you display the numeric value. You can do that using, I'm just going to copy this one instead of having to type that. You can use a format string. You can format it as currency. And you can say, I want 2 digit decimal point. This is going to add a $ to the, after it convert to a string, and comma separator. So it will look a little bit better. Maybe sometimes you don't want the $. If you don't want this $, but you want the comma separator, you can format it as a number format with 2 digit decimal point. Sometimes you may want to format it as a percentage. So if you want to format it as a percentage, you can use maybe percent format with 2 digit decimal point. For example, you can use 0 digit if you don't want any digit instead of 2, or 3 digit, or how many digits you like. If you format it as a percentage, it's going to multiply the number by 100, and it's going to add percent sign at the end. And you have other ones, right? There's, I'm going to put in here, refer to table, I don't know what the table number, and chapter 3 for complete list. All right, so you can refer to that. All right, so anyway, let's go ahead and see how we're going to do that. In this case, we have a string variable, so there's no conversion needed. You can simply say LBL control name.text equals string variable. So we're going to do that. LBL, in this case, full date is .text equal to str full date. That's it. No conversion needed, and this is your 3-step input, processing, output. So always, all your program, we're going to follow this template. At least for chapter 3, we're going to follow this template. Step 0, you declare your variables. Step 1, you do the input. Step 2, you do the processing. Step 3, you do the output. And you can use this thing as a guide of what you're going to do in here. You have to put it in that order. If you don't follow that order, you may not get the correct result. What would happen if you did step 2 before step 1? You're not going to get correct result. If you do step 3 before step 2, you're not going to get correct result. They have to be in that order: step 1, step 2, step 3. Otherwise, your program will not work. Let's go ahead and test it, see if it works. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the start button to run it. And it just takes a little time to start that. Sometimes if this is on your way, the property window, you can hide it by clicking on the push pen. This will hide it. And similarly for the toolbox, you can click on the push pen to hide it. So it'll give you more room for your program. And if this one, if you need more room to see your program, you can close this button at the output button at the, and then you'll have more room to see your program. Okay. It is it's working, compiling things. It's kind of it's slowed down when I connect my projector over at the projector. Is slow it down. Apparently, that's why it's taking time before it's compiled, so it can run. Anyone have any question while we're waiting for that?
Teacher, I just have one question.
Yeah.
So my question is like, for example, for Microsoft Office, like Word document or Excel document, there is like an online website which Microsoft made that you can use the documents without downloading them. Like, is it possible to use Visual Studio like online without downloading it? For example, from the Chromebook or like.
No, you cannot. You need Visual. You need to have Visual Studio installed. It's a large program. They don't have it. What kind of PC you have?
No, I have a regular one, but like I haven't one Chromebook, like which I like. I wanted to try to use it on the Chromebook,
Hello.
but no, no.
Yes.
I have regular PC, but like I had one Chromebook which I tried to like how I'm using Microsoft Office, like Word document online.
Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
only.
The Office it have the online version, which is not the full desktop version. So you cannot do everything that you can do with the desktop version of Office. But this is available online. But Visual Basic is different. You need to have Visual Studio installed to be able to use it.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. Okay. All right. So this is ready to go. So let's see if this works. I'm going to go ahead and put in here today's date. Right. So now when I click on show date, it should execute this program, basically get the input and then do the concatenation to get the full date and then display the full date. Let's see what happened. Here it is, Wednesday, comma, April 22, comma, 2020. So it worked, right? Now I haven't programmed the clear button. I need to program it. When I program it, I need to clear all the text boxes and the label. So we need to program this one. The exit button is functioning. I can click on that to exit. Let's go ahead and program the last event handler. I can do it from the code window by clicking on the second pull down menu. From there, select the second button, BTN clear, and then click on the click event on the third pull down menu. This is going to create a cert event handler for the clear button. And this is straightforward. This is a rule. You can clear text boxes faster than labels. So when I put two sections here, clear text boxes. Okay, and to clear text box, simply use the text box name, txt, let's say in here, day of month, day of week, dot. Simply you can use the clear method. And this is gonna clear that. txt month dot clear. txt day of month dot clear. And txt year dot clear. So text boxes, you can clear them simply by using the clear method. Okay, you can use the clear method. Now labels, they don't have a clear method. So I'm gonna clear labels, and there's only one label here. This is LBL full date. The only way you clear it is by changing its text property. You need to set it to an empty string. You can do that in two ways. You can use two double quotes, that means it's an empty string. This will clear it, right? Okay, or you can use the constant string dot empty. Both of them are the same way. This will clear it, right? Whichever one you prefer. I prefer to use a double quote because it's less typing, right? But this will work also. It's the same equivalent. I like to use this thing. And this is will set it. Now you can clear text boxes if you like the same way you cleared labels by saying text box name dot text equal empty string. It will work, but you cannot use a clear clear method with a label. It's not a variable there. Okay, so this is basically the code to clear the input and output. Let's go ahead and test that. Okay, it's gonna, hopefully it doesn't take time to compile and run. All right, while it's running, let me go ahead and talk about other aspect of this thing. All right, so here it is. So I'm gonna put, doesn't matter what I type in here. If I say show date, it's gonna show me that. When you do the clear button, it's gonna clear the text boxes and the output and the label. So clear them. So it's working. All right, now, very important. Sometimes when you do form design, you may put things in different order, right? So for example, I'm gonna do some modification for this one. I wanna increase that on purpose in here for now. I wanna take this thing, move it here, and take this thing and move it here, and then take this one and move it here. It's not you know, thing that you really want to do, but anyway, so let's say that we want to do that. When you do that and you run it, you're going to get something funny, right? So let's go ahead and run it, see what would happen. When you run it now, the cursor is going to be placed not on the months, but it's going to place on the day of the week because we swapped their location. Okay, because Visual Basic will remember the order in which you place the control. Since you place this text box before this text box, the focus will go on the second text box instead of the first one. When you press on tab, so if I put in here day of the week, let's say in here Wednesday. If I press on tab, it go back to the first one, which is not what we want, right? So let me exit. The way you want, I want them usually, it's always when you want them going left to right, top to bottom. That's how I want to navigate. To do that, you can do that by clicking on the View tab, View menu. And then from the View menu, you can select Tab Order. Tab order allow you to define how you're going to navigate. So as notice that the day of the week have a text box have a 5 tab order instead of and the months have 6. I want to change that. I can click on, I want it to go first to the first text box, going to give it tab order of 0, then the second one, 1, 2, 3. This one output doesn't have tab order because you cannot tab into a label, so this doesn't matter. Then we need this one, then this one, then this one. So this, you put the tab order on the text boxes and on the button only because the other one don't have a tab order. So we have them in the right order right now. So when I do that, once you finish, you click on View, and then you click on Tab Order again. This is going to save the new tab order, and if you run it right now, it's going to put you on the first field on months. And then when you tab, it's going to go to day of week, and when you tab, it's going to go to day of months, and when you tab, it's going to go to year, and then you tab, you go to show date, etc., etc. So let's go ahead and try that. So now, as it's run right now, notice we are in months. I'm not going to use the mouse. I'm going to keep the mouse in here. So I'll put in here for the day. I want to put Thursday. And I'll put for the day of the, oh, this is, sorry, the month first. All right, so this one, the month is gonna be April, right? When I press on tab, it goes to the right tab order. Then we're gonna go day of week is gonna be in here, Thursday. And a day of the month, let's say 23, and the year 2020. And when I press on tab, it's going to go to show date. So it's in the right tab order, right? If I press on enter on show date, it's going to show me that. If I press on tab, it go to clear. Press enter, it's going to clear it. Press on tab, it go to exit. Press on enter to exit. correct? So you can do that. This is tab order. Very important. Is a good form design require you to have the right tab order. So before you submit all your work, make sure you put the tab order properly. So you tab left to right, top to bottom. All right. The other thing you can do is you can define a shortcut key for this button, right? You can do that by opening the property windows, and in the text property, just before the letter that you want to make it a hotkey, you can use ampersand. So let's say I want to make the hotkey in here D for date. So in here I go to the text property for the date field, and just before the letter D, I put ampersand. If you put an ampersand before the letter D, it's gonna make it a hotkey. So we're gonna underline the letter D. All right. Again, let me show you how you do that on the projector, because you may not see that. So if you want to make the D being the hotkey, just before the letter D, you would use the ampersand, and then you put date. And when you do that, it's gonna show up as show, and date is gonna be underline the letter D. You're gonna underline the hotkey. So now to execute this button, you do Alt D, and it will execute this button. So you don't have to use a mouse to do that. All right. So this is how you do it. You add ampersand before the hotkey in this case. Let's go ahead and do the other one. For the clear, I want to make the R the hotkey. So just before the letter R, I can put ampersand. Right. So now it's the R is underlined. And for the exit, I want to make the letter X a hotkey. So just before the letter X, I can put ampersand. And it's gonna underline the letter X. So now Alt X will exit. So we can do that, right? So if I before I run it, I want to do other things. All right. So you can do these hotkeys. So you can execute the button by doing Alt hotkey combination to do that. But there's other thing you can do. You can define for a form. You can select the form, and for each form you can design two buttons. You can design the accept button. This is basically what would happen if you press the enter key. So the enter key is the accept button. I can define this one to be, for example, the show date, right? So if I press enter, it's going to execute the show date button, right? And you can define the cancel button. The cancel button is what you want to happen if you press the escape key, right? So if you press the escape key, usually you want to exit. So I want to select the exit button, right? So I defined an escape key, the cancel button to be the exit button, and the accept button to be the show date button. Let's run it and see how this works. All right. Okay, so the first time I want to do Alt R to clear the screen. Okay, then I want to enter some data, and then press enter to activate the accept button. And then when I'm done, I'll press the escape key to execute the exit button. Right. So okay, this is taking time to start. Here it is. Okay, so I'm gonna put in here any junk data, doesn't matter. Right now, I can clear that. To clear that, I can do Alt, hold the Alt key down, and do R, the hotkey for the clear button. It's gonna clear it. Right now, I'm gonna enter some data. So I'm gonna put in here Wednesday. Actually, month is April. Right now, if I press enter, notice it's highlighted right now because this is a accept button. If I press enter, it's gonna execute the show date button. Right now, to close the window, I don't have to press on the exit button. I can press the escape key, which is the cancel button, and it's gonna Well, okay. No, escape is conflicting with zoom. If I press it again, it goes that because I hidden the toolbar, zoom toolbar. Pressing escape will bring it back, so it was conflicting with that. So I'm gonna hide it again. All right. Okay. So we have that. All right, so it's basically this is all what you need to know from here. The other thing you can do is if you finish the design and you're happy with the design and you don't want to allow the user to change the design, you can right click on a blank area in the form and select from the shortcut menu to lock the control. If you do that, then you won't be able to move the control anymore. They'll be locked in place. So, so this is maybe you want to do that. If you don't want to, if you're happy with the design and you want to keep it, then you can lock it. If you want to change it, you can right click and then say, click on lock control again, and then you'll be able to move things around. Right. Okay. So this is basically the first example. So this is the only example we're going to do today that doesn't involve calculation. It doesn't involve numbers. So it involves only using strings. So again, a reminder, the only operation you can do with strings is concatenation. And you do the concatenation using the concatenation operator, which is the ampersand. So this is the only operator you can use with string, the concatenation operator, right? So it's the only operation you can do that, right? So again, this is a summary of the naming convention. We know all about controls. You have to use the right prefix for text boxes, labels, button, and picture boxes. Similarly, when you declare your variables, you have to use the right prefix for variable names, all right? Now, whole numbers, you declare as int, use the prefix int or integers, and double, use the prefix dbl. This is what we're going to be doing next, right? So let's go ahead and go to the next example. We're going to develop this application right now, right? We're going to do something to do a sale price calculator, and we're going to enter in here a sale, an original price, and a discount percentage, and we'll compute the sale price after we apply the discount. So again, these are text boxes. So when I use a prefix txt for this one and for this one, but this is a output, this is a label, when I use a prefix lbl, right? Good name for this one is original price. This is discount percentage. This is a sale price. And this is BTN exit. And this is will be the maybe BTN calculate. All right, so this is the design. We're gonna create the user interface. So I'm gonna do that. All right. This week I'm gonna go ahead and do all the user interfaces. In the future, I may already create the user interface when we start, so we don't spend too much time doing the user interface. So let's go ahead and save this one. We're done with this project. I'm gonna save this one. I wanna close the window. I'll do file and close solution. So it's gonna close it, and then we're gonna create a new project. So again, this is Visual Studio 2019. Click create a new project. And I wanna select the template, which is the Visual Basic form apps. Always, the first time you have to select it from here. There's tons of them. You have to look for that Windows Form App .NET framework. Make sure it's Visual Basic. I'm gonna select this one. Let's say next. And this one, we're gonna put it on the Visual Basic Chapter 3, which I already created before. And I wanna call this one Sale Price Calculator. All right. So it does give us the form. Click on the toolbox to display it, and I can resize that. Let me go ahead and set the font property first to 12 point. So with the form selected, I can go to the font property and change that from 8 point to 12 point. All right, okay, so we have that. Okay, so we want in here, we need 3 labels, 3 text boxes, and 2 buttons. So here are the labels, 1, 2, 3. Right, let's go ahead and change their text property. This is going to be original price. This is going to be the sale, the discount percentage. And this is going to be the discounted price or the sale price. I can draw a box around these and choose to do format, align them maybe to the right, and make them the distance, make them same distance. Vertical spacing, make equal. Right, so I have that, and then I can add now 3 text boxes. One, 2, 3, and I can put them here. I'm going to put them in the wrong order on purpose, just to see what would to show you what would happen when you do that. Right, so we have that. I can position that further. All right, so we have that, and I can move the whole thing together. And we have 2 buttons, one calculate sale price, one exit. Right, I may have to increase the font, the window in here, calculate sale price. This one here, exit. And we can resize the window. Maybe I want to change the title. So I select the form and change the text property of the form to say sale price calculator. Right, so it's going to display that. Now I need to name the input and output. This I made a mistake. This should be a label, by the way. It's not text. So I want to delete this one. Okay, I need a label. I can select a label from here. And here it is. Now I want to make the label look like a text box. To do that, I change the auto size to false. I add maybe a border style, 3D, fixed 3D. Maybe I can change the background color. Back color, maybe use a whatever color. Okay, so we have that. I can resize it now. So it's kind of close to that. And maybe we can do the text align. All right, so we have that. I can delete the text now. We have that. Okay, so this is the form. We need to name the input and output. So this is, we need to name that. This is text box, prefix is txt. So it's going to be txt original price. This is txt discount percentage. And this is label, so it's going to be LBL sale price. And these are button BTN calculate, and this one BTN exit. Right, so we did the user interface. We can just jump into programming. So on a program, let's do the exit button. It's straightforward. All right, how do we do the exit button? Always the same for the exit button. You say me.close. So always you do that. Okay, we need to add the one for the calculate. I'm going to select the calculate button from the pull down menu, BTN calculate. Here it is. From the third one, I want to select the click event. We're going to create the BTN click event handler. And we need to do the 3 steps again. Step 0, declare variables. How many variables we need to declare? We have 2 input, we have 1 output. So we need 3 variables, 1 for each input, 1 for each output, all right? So we're gonna do that. So we're gonna hit them. The first one is gonna be for the original price. What type of data you need for original price? Do you need an integer or do you need the double?
Double.
Double. When you talk about money, you're talking about dollar and cents. So it's gonna be double. So we're gonna use the DBL, prefix DBL. DBL and original price. So you can use the same name as your control, but instead of TXT, you would use DBL. And this is going to be as double. Right, what's the next one? Next one is the percentage. What type of data is that? It's going to be double also. Discount percentage. Percentage is always going to be floating point number. It's going to be double. Because it's less than, it is divided by 100. It is like 50% is 0.5. So it's going to be always a fraction, kind of. So as double. And of course, the output is going to be also double, which is the sale price money also. DBL sale price as double. All right, so we have that. Step 1 is get input, right? And I'm not going to put the syntax again, all right? But let's just put in here just one syntax in here. If you have a basically a double variable, you need to convert the input to double using CDBL. Right. So if you're reading the data into a floating point double variable, you need to convert the text from the control name to a double using CDBL function. So in this case, we have 2 input, we have 2 text boxes, right? So you have 2 text boxes, you need 2 input, 1 for each text box. So you need 2 of them. So let's go ahead and do that. So in here, first of all, is going to be the one for DBL original price. CDBL. And we're going to get that from TXT original price. Dot text. Notice we're using the same name, original price. Original price. We're changing only the prefix, right? This is text box. This is a double variable. Next one is DBL discount percentage. equal CDBL DXT discount percentage. I forget the DXT discount percentage dot text. This is the input. All right. So next we're gonna do the processing. Processing is where you do the calculation, and what we're calculating is the sale price. So DBL sale price. So when you do calculation, you don't use controls, you use only variables. This is gonna equal to, basically, you're gonna take the 1 minus the discount, which is DBL discount percentage, times the original price. Right. So if, for example, you're getting 25% discount, 25 is 0.25, right? So you're paying 0.75 the original price, or 75% of the original price, right? So one is like 100%, right? One is 100%, and then 25% will be 0.25. So 1 minus 0.25 is 0.75, which is 75%. So if you have a discount 25%, you're paying 75% of the original price. And that's what it's doing. And the last one is the output. Right. Again, I'm not gonna put the syntax. Maybe I'll put the syntax for 1. Basically, the idea is you wanna, if you have a numeric, if you wanna display numeric value, we're gonna say in here LBL control name dot text is gonna equal, if you have a numeric variable, then you can say in here variable name dot toString. And if you want to format it as currency, you can use C, and you can specify how many digits you want at decimal point. So in this case, our label is LBL sale price dot text is going to equal to DBL sale price dot toString, and format that as currency. Right, so it's going to display it with a $sign and comma separator and 2 decimal point. Let's go ahead and try it. This is, I did the typing errors, should be CDBL, right? CDBL. Right? So when you see a wavy red line, it means that you have an error. So, okay, so we have that. So there's no error in here, it looks fine. Let's go ahead and run and see how it works. It's a little bit slow. Okay, so this is, I think we're gonna be finishing just on time. Is everybody clear about what we're doing? Right, we're gonna spend more time on chapter 3 because it's an important chapter. This is where you start doing calculations. It is the basis of programming. Everything requires calculations. On that. And you're gonna use this template as a starting point. Right, so in this case, notice in here, you see the problem? The tab order is not right, so you're starting in here, right? I don't want anyone to submit work like this, right? It should start in here, right? Let's fix that. How do you fix that? You go to the form design, on the design tab, and then on the design tab, you click on the view. From the view, you select tab order, and then you click on the right tab order. This text box and this text box, label you don't care about, and this button and this button. Okay, so we have it in right tab order. Then you click on view again, menu, and then select tab order again. We're gonna set the new tab order. Let's run it. Now it should be in the right tab order. So the cursor should be on the original price text box. Right. Again. Okay, I have slow PCs. It's taking time for it to come. Here it is. It's I think it's starting. Here it is. So now it's in the right place. So if we put in here that we get probably a person item that is $100 in price, and we're getting, let's say, 25% discount. 25 is 0.25. That's 25%, not 25, right? 0.5 is 25%. Calculate the price, can give you $75, which is 75% of the original price. This is it. Now the exit button was programmed also, so it should be able to close that. Right. So this is basically some starting example that uses calculations, right? Which is the entire objective of this class is to do calculations. Using multiplication and subtraction and addition, all of that. So doing calculation. Of course, you have to do always get the input first, convert it to a number using CDBL to convert to a double. All right. If you have integer, you have to use CINT to convert an integer. And then displaying the output. So at the beginning, you're gonna see that either your program, the input and output are bigger than the processing, all right? But as we go to chapter 4 and 5, you can see the processing is gonna be the big part, not the input and output, right? And the challenging part is gonna become the processing, not the input and output. But at the beginning, you have to get used to these CDBL and CINT and the toString method. But this can become mechanical. Once you know it, it's gonna be, it's gonna be a piece of cake for you guys. So it's not gonna be difficult. But as you go to chapter 4, and I tell you, chapter 4 is gonna be start becoming challenging. This is where you're gonna have a hard time doing the processing section. All right, that's all what I have for today. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording, and then I'll take your questions.